Before this video begins, full credit for the gameplay in the background goes to Too Zany, and full credit for the music in the background goes to Miyu. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong, but the credit goes to him for the music. If you could do me a favor and check out these channels, I would be grateful. Thank you. These days, I have a good life. I have a good house, nice job, and a loving family. But it wasn't always that way. When I was about 10 years old, the internet was a fairly new thing. That's why when social media came out, I got a bit carried away. I went and talked to strangers to see if I could meet a bunch of new friends. Although, that was one of my most dangerous habits. And eventually, something bad happened to me. It was Saturday, which meant it was the weekend, so I got some time off school. That's why I was so excited to use social media, because I had never truly gotten time to use it, with school in the way and everything. But now that it was the weekend, I could talk to people all day long, pretty much. After a few minutes of searching through Facebook, I found someone called Endo36. I figured it must have been his Xbox gamer tag or something that he branded himself with. So I decided to message him and say hi. It turns out we had some pretty common interests. I like video games, he liked video games. I like soccer, he likes soccer. After days of chatting back and forth and being friends, he finally asked if I would like to go on a play date sometime. And he asked me where I lived. Of course, as a child, I was not all that bright. So, I told him where I lived. It was one of the biggest mistakes of my entire lifetime. So on the day of the playdate, I was waiting for him to come round. My parents were at work, so they asked my older sister to come to babysit. So as I was waiting, I heard something coming from upstairs. It sounded suspicious, so I decided to look. The suspicious noise was the clanging of metal, and then all of a sudden, a thud against the floor. I slowly cracked open the door, and I looked through the gap. And there my sister was laying, dead on the floor, in a pool of blood. I was shocked at what was laying before me. I fell onto my knees and sobbed. The door came open. It was only my parents, but if only they knew what was going to happen to them next. The first thing I heard was my mother screaming, before my dad grabbed a knife from the kitchen and put up a fight, although he could only get a few cuts in, before I heard another thud and feet on the floorboards running away. I had hoped that it was my dad who was running upstairs to see if I was okay, but when I looked downstairs, I saw my mom and my dad lying next to each other on the floor. The man called out, "Now that we're all alone, our play date can begin." But I didn't care. I fell to my knees and cried until I heard footsteps slowly coming towards me. So that's when I rushed to the phone with tears in my eyes to call the police. As the man came out from his hiding spot, I spoke to the police officer about what had happened through sobbing breaths. But she understood me, and the police were on the way. I just had to keep safe until then. So I quickly and quietly ran up the stairs to hide in my room. I shut myself in a closet and locked the door. I heard the man fiddling with the doorknob, but when he found out it was locked, He started pressing his weight against it and bashing against the door, trying to get in, until eventually I heard the door burst open. The man creeped around the room, saying, "Where are you? Don't you want to play with your friend?" He was opening cupboards and drawers until when he finally said, "Are we not friends anymore?" And he opened the cupboard I was hiding in. The man held his knife at his side, poised to attack. I wouldn't have been telling this story today if the police hadn't have come through the door with the man at gunpoint. The man quickly stashed his knife in his back pocket and raised his hands. As the police escorted him out of the room, he put his hand on the handle of the knife and he said, "But you're ruining our playdate!" And he stabbed one of the police officers in the stomach. She fell over holding her stomach. The other police officer pulled out his gun and shot the man in the head. He fell over on his knees and dropped dead. As the remaining police officer escorted me out of the building, I saw the face of the intruder. His eyes were bloodshot, and he had an unnaturally long ear-to-ear grin. I walked through the building with the police officer, and I saw the scene of what had happened previously that day. Scarred me as a child. I'm just grateful for my family now doesn't have to go through that same experience I went through as a kid.